This podcast is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to Legend of the Bones. Following in the footsteps of giants, Legend of the Bones is a chimera. A mix of old-school tabletop RPG and dark fantasy storytelling. As its name might suggest, in Legend of the Bones the dice rule. There'll be no rerolls, no fudging the dice, no metacurrency. The roll of the bones will determine the character's destiny, and no one will be spared their fate. None shall escape the destiny of bone. Last time on Legend of the Bones. Following a terror attack in Varfell, in which an enemy agent sabotaged a crane being used in the construction of a new temple, the companions, having apprehended the culprit, reported the events to the town's thane, Lord Chuok. Chuok interrogated the saboteur, a man named Lochrin, but despite his threats was unable to extract any useful information. Just as he was about to command his men to take the prisoner for execution, Lena spoke up, suggesting that with the Nine's help, she could succeed where the thane could not. Invoking the miracle, Seek Truth, Lena compelled Lochrin to answer her questions truthfully, and learnt that the saboteur had been sent by the rebel, Lord Polmir, to spread terror in order to pressure Lord Chuok into breaking oath and switch his allegiance to the rebel cause. More importantly, Lochrin was forced to reveal that the rebels planned to cross the Dragonspire Mountains from a secret location on the first day of Havilah, a date just 35 days away, and from there would no doubt march upon Trevance to make war on the king. With no further intelligence to be extracted, Lord Chuok ordered Lochrin to be taken to a place of execution and hung, and after that his body should be displayed at the town's gates. Chuok then introduced the companions to Hedrick, the man who would act as their guide into the mountains. Beric explained that they were seeking to find the mage Demelza, to which Hedrick revealed that the mage had passed through Varfell 3 months prior with another woman. He explained that the pair had hired a man named Lowen to be their guide, but that after they departed, a late storm blew in, and Lowen never returned. Chapter 57, Part 1, Day 59, Morning. Party status: Beric, 43 out of 43 hit points. Lena, 31 out of 31 hit points. Valen, 19 out of 19 hit points. Talion, 27 out of 27 hit points. Hedrick, 24 out of 24 hit points. Spells available: Valen has memorized Push, Shield, Soothe, Revive, Clairvoyance, and Ignite. Talion has memorized Resolve, Poetic Prose, Pitch, Imbue, and Lullaby. Lena can pray for 2 first-level miracles, 2 second-level miracles, 1 third-level miracle, and 1 fourth-level miracle. A glorious summer's day followed a swift sunrise, as the companions followed the River Nade south into the foothills of the Dragonspire Mountains. The sky was cloudless, save for a few cumulus strays that lingered gently on the mountaintops in the distance, and in the pastures on either side of the river, contented sheep grazed lazily in the warm sun, while their playful lambs leapt and tumbled among the daisies and buttercups. The landscape was a tapestry of undulating hills, and soon pasture gave way to open meadows, and then to ancient woodland of oak, birch, and yew. Meanwhile, the river to the south of Varfell had quickly become narrower, more shallow, and filled with loose rocks, washed down from the mountains over countless years, and smoothed by centuries of passing water. All the while, the companions traced the river's winding path as it meandered through the terrain, occasionally rushing over high rocks and steep cliffs, and plunging into clear, cool pools below, before continuing its endless journey to the far-off sea. As the sun passed its zenith, Hedrick suggested they take rest by one such pool, and the companions took the opportunity to top up their water skins. Beric started a small fire, while the ranger retrieved a hemp nettle line from his pack, and using a little dried meat from his provisions, cast the line into the water. It wasn't long before the line twitched, and Hedrick swiftly hoisted a large brown trout from the pool. A second fish followed quickly after, and the catch, along with some chickweed that Valen had foraged, provided a satisfying meal. As they sat around the small fire, Hedrick pointed towards the distant peaks.
"We'll follow the river to its source,"
he explained between mouthfuls.
"After that, we'll head west till we reach Paul Glassburn."
"What's that?" Beric asked.
"A lake,"
Hedrick answered.
"Ben Melkeen stands on its far shore."
"Why would anyone build anything in the mountains?" Beric asked with genuine curiosity.
"I dunno,"
Hedrick replied, as if Beric's question was inconsequential.
"All I know's that it's been there long since anyone can remember. Perhaps it was a watchtower, or a place of sanctuary,"
Valen proffered.
"When the Morin first arrived on these shores, it was said to be a wild and untamed place, inhabited by primitive tribes and fell creatures."
"Little has changed then?" Talion interjected with a playful grin. The others chuckled at the bard's jest, appreciating the small moment of levity. Finishing their meal, the companions gathered their things, and after extinguishing the fire, continued on with their journey. As they pressed on, the ground rose steadily, and the companions noted that Hedrick led them along a narrow, overgrown path, and clearly travellers before them had used the river to guide their way. Nevertheless, in the summer heat it was hard going, especially for Beric and Lena, whose mail and shields were a burden under such labours, and the whole company required frequent pauses to drink and splash water on their faces and necks. By late afternoon, the woodland had become largely coniferous, with tall pines reaching up into the sky, and the path now veered away from the river in order to cope with the steepness of the ascent. Eventually, the terrain became more level, and the trees gave way to rocky moorland of low hardy shrubs and coarse grass. The river could be seen bending and curving miles into the distance, towards a huge mass of glacial ice, and a towering snow-covered peak.
"That there's Andamavon,"
Hedrick declared, nodding towards the mountain.
"The river's mother."
The Ranger class has a number of useful skills in the wilderness, one of which is a 5 in 6 chance of finding food when hunting, and a 2 in 6 chance when foraging. I made a foraging roll for Hedrick off Mike, which was a success, and this has meant that the companions will not need to use any of their dried rations for the day. Now before I go any further, this episode sees Beric, Lena and Valen all reach level 7. So without any further ado, let's level up Beric. Rolling a d8 for new hit points. An 8! That's a great start. With his constitution bonus, Beric's total hit points rise to 52. He is a tank. Let's see if he can do equally well with ability score increases. Strength 2. Intelligence 1. Wisdom 2. Dexterity 3. Constitution. A 6! Beric's constitution increases to a very impressive 16. Oh wait, that also means his bonus will increase to 2, which will take his total hit points to 53. And charisma. 5. Now that was a great level up for the warrior. I wonder if Lena will have the same luck. rolling a d6 for the cleric's new hit points. A 3. Lena's new hit point total increases to 34. Can she do any better with ability score increases? Strength. 1. Intelligence. 5. Wisdom. 4. Dexterity. 2. Constitution. 5. Oh, this isn't looking good. Last chance with charisma. A 6! Lena's charisma increases to 14. No extra bonus, but I do feel this has been a real growth area for the cleric. She has become more confident, and dare I say that despite her scars, with Valen's love, she feels more beautiful. It doesn't end there though, because level 7 is an important milestone for clerics. Each day, Lena will now be able to pray for an additional 3rd level miracle, and her first 5th level miracle. I'm very excited to see what she can do with these new powers. Finally, let's level up Valen. Rolling a d4 for new hit points. A 1. So with Halfman out, the mage's total hit points rise to 21. Fingers crossed he can do better with ability score increases. Let's find out. Strength. A 6! That's more like it. Valen's strength increases to 10. I guess the mage has been flexing his muscles recently. Intelligence. 1. Wisdom. 4. Dexterity. 2. Constitution. 3. And finally, Charisma. A 2. Okay, well that was a modest level up. However, like clerics, level 7 is a major milestone for magic users. Not only does Valen get access to another 1st level spell, but he has also unlocked his first 4th level spell. Time to roll a d12 for the 1st level spell. A 2. Let's see. Okay, Valen has learnt the homebrew spell Charm Animal. Similar to Charm Person, this spell affects any normal, non-magical animal up to 4+1 hit dice. The spell does not allow the caster to speak to, command or understand the animal, but the creature will behave in a friendly, non-hostile manner. Domesticated animals will obey simple commands that they would normally understand. This could be very useful as the party heads into the wilderness. Now in the last episode, we heard how Valen has been transcribing the scroll Dragon's Breath that he found at Innisgwyn. On that basis, it makes sense that this is the 4th level spell that he has learnt. However, before I can confirm this, I need to make an intelligence check for Valen to see whether he can correctly transcribe the scroll. A 13 is a success, meaning the scroll itself will immolate. As a reminder, Dragon's Breath is a homebrew spell, which when cast, causes a supernatural fog to spew forth from the caster's mouth, filling a space of up to 240 square yards in 10 rounds. Any creature in the fog has their visibility reduced to 3 feet, regardless of infravision. In addition, the fog could be used to fill up a gulf or chasm, forming a cloud bridge which can support the weight of a human-sized creature. The spell lasts for 1 turn per level of the caster, after which the fog dissipates. In case you are wondering, yes, I have unashamedly stolen the effects of this spell from John Borman's classic 1981 film Excalibur. Okay, so back to the matter at hand. Let's see if the remainder of day 59 has anything in store. I rolled the weather off mic before the start of the episode, and as we have just heard, it was a glorious summer day. Given Hedrick has spent his life roaming these mountains, whilst the companions are in his company, I'm not going to roll for losing direction. What about Stumble Upon? 16, nothing. Wandering Encounter. 4, so no encounter. Day 60, weather. 19, again the sun rises into a cloudless sky. Foraging. A 2, once again Hedrick is able to source sufficient food to sustain the party. Stumble Upon. A 4, wandering encounter. 5, the companions make their way into the heart of the mountains. At the end of the day, Hedrick identifies a suitable place to make camp. Day 61, weather. Another 18. Well, this prolonged spell of good weather is most welcome. Foraging. A 1! Well, the Ranger is certainly proving his worth. Stumble Upon. A 5. Wandering encounter. A 1. An encounter is indicated. I have created a custom wandering encounter table for the mountains, which you can find at legendofthebones.blogspot.com. Now, some of the entries on this list are truly terrifying, so let's hope the dice gods are on the companion's side. Rolling 3d6. An 11. Okay then. But before we get back to the narrative, I also need to check how Canute is getting on. Let's see if anything interrupts the Northman's journey. Day 59. Wandering encounter. A 3. Nothing. Day 60. Wandering encounter. 4. Nothing. Day 61. Wandering encounter. A 6. Nothing. The Uvadraka has made its way back to Mullion and the open sea without delay. Canute steers his ship up the coast towards Lord Petrock's stronghold of Penglanau, with an aim to deliver Lord Turok's message, and warn the Eldermen of the rebels' forces amassing at Kero Morthal. We will catch up with Canute soon enough, but for now, we have a wandering encounter to resolve. Chapter 57. Part 2. Day 61. Morning. Party status. Beric, 53 out of 53 hit points. Lena, 34 out of 34 hit points. Valen, 21 out of 21 hit points. Talion, 27 out of 27 hit points. Hedrick, 24 out of 24 hit points. Spells available. Valen has memorized Charm Animal, Push, Shield, Soothe, Revive, Clairvoyance, Ignite, and Dragon's Breath. Talion has memorized Resolve, Poetic Prose, Pitch, Imbue, and Lullaby. Lena can pray for 2 first-level miracles, 2 second-level miracles, 2 third-level miracles, 1 fourth-level miracle, and 1 fifth-level miracle. It had still been dark when Hedrick woke Valen for his watch, and as the ranger slid into his bedroll, the mage set about preparing a nettle infusion on the small fire. It was noticeably colder in the mountains. There was a chill breeze and a low ground fog which lingered, which, despite it being summer, caused dew to collect on every possible surface. Valen pulled his cloak about him, and as the water heated in the small copper kettle, the mage retrieved his spellbook from his pack and began his ritual studies. Each incantation had to be fastidiously committed to memory, not just the words themselves, but also the right inflections in the pronunciation, any gestures of the body, and the triggers by which the necessary emotional energy must be harnessed. He recalled the companion's time in Lost Withel a few days earlier, and how he had begun to feel an indescribable affinity with one of the horses, a piebald mare. The companions had given the beasts to the villagers as compensation for their losses, but before that, Valen had spent many hours with the animal. He had tried to forge a connection with it, speaking to it softly in his native tongue, and trying to project into the mare's mind feelings of friendship and harmony. When they had left the village, from its stable the animal could see Valen upon the Uvadraka, and she called out to him with loud, pitiful neighs as the ship pulled away. In that moment, he too felt a strange sense of loss, causing him to remember the words of his master.
Until one has loved an animal, a part of one's soul remains unawakened,
Amos had once said, and Valen had frequently found the old man talking conversationally to birds and beasts that had ventured near the tower. As he meditated on the memory, he began to visualize a pulsing energy within his body, and as he did so, a series of runes appeared in Valen's mind. Excitedly, he picked up his quill and drew them carefully onto the page, and immediately he knew that he had unlocked something extraordinary. His attention was drawn by the water, which had begun bubbling and steaming. He removed the kettle from the fire and cast a few dried nettle leaves into the water. The inky blackness of the night sky was now tinged with grey, and the brightness of the stars had begun to fade. Valen half expected the arrival of the dawn chorus, but as the first light grew, there was no such sounds. He was struck by the deep sense of isolation. On the route west from Andamavon, the companions had made camp in a wooded valley, nestled between towering peaks on either side, and through which a small river ran. The water's burbling and the gentle rustle of wind through the trees simply added to the sense of solitude. The sudden noise of an animal cut through the tranquility, and by the sound of it, the beast was large. The nearest trees were 60 or 70 paces away, and it was from that direction that the sound had come. Valen stood to face whatever it was, the cup shaking in his hand, and not just from the cold. In the low light, the mage struggled to make out anything, but then he saw movement just beyond the tree line. A huge, hulking form appeared from the darkness, its enormous, brown-furred body swaying as it put one massive paw in front of the other. The bear raised its head, sniffing and huffing as it looked upon Valen with hungry eyes. The mage, not wanting to make any sudden movements, turned his head ever so slightly back towards the camp.
Wake up!
The bears listed in the basic expert rules are either polar, prehistoric or North American species, which do not fit with this part of my game world. It could be argued that such things do not matter, but for me, as my setting is based on early medieval or Viking Age Britain, the relative verisimilitude of flora and fauna is important. Therefore, I have created a custom creature which is based on the Eurasian brown bear, which incidentally could be found in Britain up until the early medieval period, when they were hunted to extinction. Brown bears are 4+1 hit dice monsters, but unless we get into combat, I'm not going to expand further. If you are interested, you can find a full creature profile at legendofthebones.blogspot.com. Off mic, I rolled for surprise, and found that neither side were, but before we go any further, it's time to make a reaction roll. Rolling 2d6, higher is better. An 8. That's uncertain. Time for another roll. A 4. That indicates an attack. Before we get into combat, if Valen wins the initiative, it is possible that he may be able to charm the bear with his new spell. Let's find out. The bear. A 2. Valen. A 6. Very well. The mate will attempt to cast Charm Animal. Valen will need a 17 or less for his casting roll. A 2. So far, so good. The bear will now need to roll higher than 16 to save versus spell. A 5. It would seem that the dice gods are on the companion's side.
Bear!
Valen called back again, his voice trembling slightly in the crisp air. He wasn't certain he had spoken loud enough to wake the others, but he could not risk calling any louder. He feared that might provoke the bear, making the situation even more dangerous. The animal was now only 30 paces away, its massive form looming in the half-light of dawn. It paused, sniffing the air deeply once again, its nostrils flaring as if weighing the mage's scent, perhaps deciding whether this human posed a threat or was simply prey. Beyond it, at the edge of the shadowed tree line, the mage could just make out the shapes of two smaller forms, moving cautiously. Juveniles. At that moment, the mage's mind pieced the details together. The adult, huge and powerful, was unmistakably a female. The she-bear's sharp, amber eyes locked with the mage's gaze. Then something seemed to trigger a fierce maternal instinct within her. It was clear that she believed the mage was a danger to her cubs. With a swift motion, she reared up on her hind legs, and Valen was struck by the sheer scale of the creature, standing as it was over 8 feet tall. She let out an earth-shattering roar, one that vibrated through the very ground beneath him. Behind him, Valen could hear the distinct sounds of his companions stirring, rousing from their sleep, likely alarmed by the bear's terrifying call.
It's a bear!
He shouted, his voice now raw with urgency. His fear of the beast's reaction now redundant, he knew there was no turning back. Valen could hear his companions frantically scrambling to gather their weapons, but this offered little reassurance. In the next moment, the bear dropped back onto all fours with surprising grace, its immense paws thundering against the earth as it charged. The mage knew he had mere moments to act, and his heart raced in his chest. Taking a deep breath, he concentrated, visualizing the pulsing energy that he had studied just minutes earlier. A brilliant sphere of light in his chest, flickering in shades of blue and pink. He extended his arms, his palms facing outward, inviting and open.
Hedog fiend, von hethig bith lorith.
The effect was almost immediate. The bear's ferocious pace began to slow, the charge swiftly dying down to a lumbering walk. It sniffed the air once more, giving a quiet grunt as it ambled closer to the mage, eyeing him now with curiosity.
Stay your hands,
Valen commanded, his voice steady but firm, as he heard his companions preparing their weapons, no doubt unsure of what was unfolding.
She will not harm us.
As he said this, the she-bear came up close to the mage, the massive form moving with surprising gentleness. She nudged his hand with her huge head, the fur on her neck coarse but soft to the touch. Valen ran his fingers through the thick, dense fur, scratching her behind her ear. She groaned low in her throat, a sound of pleasure, her eyes half closing in contentment.
Go in peace, mother,
Valen murmured softly, holding the bear's gaze with quiet respect.
You have nothing to fear from us.
The bear let out another low groan, its meaning unclear, but the mage believed she understood his words, or at least his tone. Without warning, she gave his hand a slow, deliberate lick, her tongue warm and rough. Then she turned and lumbered back slowly towards the trees, her cubs bounding forward eagerly to meet her. Before disappearing into the thick undergrowth, the she-bear paused and turned her head back towards the companions. She let out one final thunderous roar, which echoed off the valley walls, before she vanished into the shadows of the trees with her young. With Valen having just learnt the spell Charm Animal, and considering that my mountain encounter table includes creatures like trolls and wyverns, I was incredibly lucky to roll a normal animal. As always though, one can never be complacent about what the dice might decide. By pitting the encounter at just Valen initially, if the mage had failed his casting roll, or if the bear had made it save, then the outcome could have been quite different. With their journey to Penmelkine almost complete, I need to establish whether the companions find any evidence of what happened to Lowen, the man who was Demelza's guide. Time to ask the Oracle. A 4. That's a yes but. Okay, so was whatever happened to him the result of the late storm mentioned by Hedrick? A 6. That's a yes and. Finally, is there any evidence that Demelza and her apprentice befell the same fate? A 2. That's a straight no. Okay then. Chapter 57, Part 3, Day 61, Midday. Party status. The party status is unchanged, except that Valen has cast Charm Animal. The sun once again climbed into a vast, near cloudless sky, quickly chasing away the ground fog and bathing the entire mountain valley in its warm, golden glow. Despite this, the air remained fresh and cool, and the companions still found themselves in need of their cloaks. The heather, now in full bloom, carpeted the ground in vibrant hues of purple and violet, and from this sea of colour, the occasional melodic call of a nesting lark could be heard, while insects and butterflies darted between the hardy wildflowers. Nevertheless, the craggy mountains stood ever watchful, their jagged peaks reaching high, some still crowned with pristine snow, and it struck the companions how very different this place might be in the depths of winter. They followed the valley for several miles over open moorland, the rough terrain stretching endlessly before them, until the way was blocked by another massive, imposing mountain, from whose icy cap the stream began its descent. Many hulking rocks and boulders littered the valley floor at this point, forcing the stream to twist and turn in unexpected directions, and there was evidence of a significant landslide of gravel and debris.
"This rock falls new,"
Hedrick stated solemnly, as he assessed the potential dangers ahead, his gaze darkening. The ranger pointed out a trail that rose steadily up and around the mountain, indicating the path that they must follow. To reach it, the companions had to clamber over several of the immense boulders, and as they passed over the rocks, the tragic mystery of Lowen's fate became horrifyingly clear. The torso of a man protruded out from under the final boulder, his legs crushed by the huge rock. It would have undoubtedly been a horrific and gruesome death. The corpse showed few signs of decomposition. Rather, the flesh was dry and shriveled, the skin tight and leathery over the bones, as if the life had been drained from him.
"God's have mercy!"
Lena exclaimed.
"Do you know this man?"
Beric asked Hedrick, his tone filled with growing concern.
"Aye, that's Lowen, all right,"
the ranger confirmed in a matter-of-fact tone, though his eyes were solemn.
"Like I said, the mountains are a cruel mistress."
"We should cover him," Beric suggested, his voice quiet but firm.
"Let scavengers get to the body."
They spent a few minutes covering the corpse with loose rocks, after which Lena offered a prayer to Naya for Lowen's soul. A brief search of the surrounding area did not reveal any further bodies, suggesting that Lowen had been the only victim of the rockfall. The companions continued on, following the trail upward and around to the south. On the exposed mountainside, the wind was blustery and biting, adding to the sense of precariousness, and forcing the companions to pull their cloaks tight about them. It did not help that the path was narrow, though it would have been wide enough to lead a mule or pack horse. Yet prudence led the companions to walk in single file, each step taken with care. The going was slow, but after an hour's trek, the trail cleared a rise, revealing a breathtaking view. A large, serene lake-filled valley stretched out below, its turquoise waters sparkling and glimmering in the sun. A thin forest of tall trees edged the lake, while the valley was surrounded on all sides by steep slopes, over which dozens of small waterfalls fed the lake, their waters cascading down in delicate streams. Perhaps it was the illusion brought on by the fine weather, but such was the sight that it seemed to the companions to be a place of sanctuary, a haven nestled within a harsh and unforgiving wilderness. It was impossible to judge the distance. Perhaps it was a mile or so, but at the furthest reaches of the lake, sitting at the water's edge and cut into the rock of the mountain itself, the crumbling facade of some kind of ancient structure could just be made out. Hedrick stopped and pointed at whatever the place was.
"That there's Pen Melkeen."
Thank you for listening to Legend of the Bones. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you like what you've heard, then please consider rating and reviewing the show in your podcatcher of choice. Not only do I love seeing the feedback, but it really does help the show to reach new listeners. There are no additional guest voices in this episode, but I would like to take the opportunity to thank everyone who has contributed to the show up until now. As always, I am immensely grateful. You can also help by liking or reposting new episode announcements, or by recommending the show online or to a friend. You really can't beat the power of word of mouth. Alternatively, if you would like to show your appreciation by buying me a metaphorical cup of tea, then I have a Ko-fi page at ko-fi.com/Legend of the Bones. Any donations will go towards the show's running costs. If you are interested, I also have a range of merchandise, which can be found at www.redbubble.com/people/legendbones/shop. To keep the cost down to you, all items are presented at zero markup. I make no money from them. It's purely to give something back to fans of the show. I would also love to know what you think of the show, and I do respond to every message I receive. So with that in mind, you can contact me on X at LegendBones, Blue Sky at LegendBones, Mastodon at LegendBones, at ttrpg-hangout.social, Instagram at legendofthebones, email at legendofthebones@gmail.com, or go to legendofthebones.blogspot.com for show notes, house rules, character profiles, art, maps and more. Join me next time to find out what awaits our adventurers as the bones decide their fate. None shall escape the destiny of Bone.
Welcome to Fantasy Pants, an actual play RPG podcast.
The network won't like me saying this, but damn it, the Tythos tragedy was the result of nothing natural. It was an act of deliberate terrorism. We don't know anything, except that we are hurt, and we are scared. But as always, I choose to believe in the power of our luminaries. I will put my faith in the best of all worlds, when we must face the storm again.
A beacon of light. That's our role.
Then, shine.
What are you doing? What are you talking about?
You think you're so much fucking better than me, don't you?
You are weak.
Take him! Zebulon, you have to remember. You have to remember. Look at the toy. Look at the toy, Zebulon.
It's just the beginning, isn't it?
Monster! Monster!
Can I take your hand?
Roll for initiative.
These lights, they don't burn out at night.
Did you crit your pants?
Are you
I
kidding
crit my
me?
pants.
Oh, I can smell
I
it.
crit my pants. Those cozy fucking beds at the pale moonlight.
They're incredible. You
Fuck
would not
that
believe
place.
Stop it, it's cool.
It's not cool.
You're fucking so dead.
Wait, was that? Did you come up with that?
Shut up. I like it.
This is the most wild fucking fight. You say just shut up.
Jason Taylor is now shut.
Shirts are off.
These lights, they'll give us freedom from the dark around